Good morning, everybody. So yesterday we had homework all about analogies. So we had some words in the word box up here, and the words are danger, succeed, increase, brave, assist, slope, departure, and strength. We had to use those words and fill them in the blank spaces. So it was all about kind of finding the relationship between the two words and figuring out the riddle. Rosie, can you read that for me, please? Believable.
Believable is to unbelievable as weakness is to strength.
Good girl, well done. So we have opposites here. Believable and unbelievable are opposites, so we're looking for the opposite word of weakness. Number 2, Steve.
Force is to power us, achieve is to success.
To succeed. Good job. So we have synonyms here. Force and power are similar in meaning, so we need achieve and succeed, which are also similar in meaning. Number 3, Cherry, can you read that one for me, please?
Number 3, polite is to rude as fearful is to brave.
Good job, well done. So we've got opposites there. So we needed the word brave. Number 4, can you please read that one for me, please? Han. Excellent.
Excellent is to wonderful as rich is to danger.
Good job, well done, lovely. Okay. All right, guys, let's start with our grammar lesson. So today is all about grammar. Today we're learning about adjectives that compare, something that we have learned about before. So it's really more of a refresher lesson. Can you please read from use to add Lily?
Use
ER.
er and more to compare to nouns. Use ast and more most to compare three or more. Add er or est to most adjectives that have one syllable. For adjectives that have two syllables and end in y, such as happy, replace the I with
The Y.
the y with I and then add er or est.
Good job. Okay, can you read the rest of this for me, please, Steve?
Use and more to compare.
No. Lily has just read that. So Mary is.
Mary is shorter than Cassia. Carrie is the tallest girl in the class. Frank is friendlier than Bill. Mike is the friendliest volunteer in the group. Movie tickets are more expensive now than last year. The bicycle is most expensive one year.
Good job. Okay, let's just have a look at these sentences. So we have learned about adjectives that compare before. Adjectives are words that describe a noun, like pretty or beautiful or loud. So when we want to compare two or more nouns, we use comparative adjectives and superlative adjectives. So with a comparative adjective, we use er or more. So if a word or if an adjective ends in or has only one syllable, we usually just add er, like tall, taller, short, shorter. With adjectives that have more than one syllable, we use the word most. So for example, if we have the word beautiful, we wouldn't say Hanoi is beautifuler than Saigon. That doesn't make any sense. We would say Hanoi is more beautiful than Saigon. For adjectives that have two syllables and end in y, like happy, we replace the y with I and add er to make happier or happiest. But we must remember to drop that y and add I before adding our new suffix. Add more or most before adjectives that have 3 or more syllables. So if it's a longer word, we're going to be adding the word more if we're comparing to, or most if we're comparing more than to. Now, have a look at these sentences. Mary is shorter than Keisha. Okay, Noob, can you explain to me why we've used the word shorter here and not shortest?
Because we are comparing two things.
Perfect. Well done. Good job, Noob. Next, Carrie is the tallest girl in the class. Thailand B, can you explain to me why we're using the word tallest here and not taller?
They didn't describe to person in this sentence.
Yeah, very good. We're not just describing two, we're talking about more than two. We're talking about the whole class. Good job. Okay, have a look down here. Chan is friendlier than Bill. We've used ER on the end here because we're comparing two. Chan is friendlier than Bill. There are just two subjects here. Mike is the friendliest volunteer in the group. We've used EST on the end here because we're comparing Mike to a whole group of people. So we're comparing more than two nouns. Movie tickets are more expensive now than last year. Pat, can you explain to me why we have used more expensive here?
Because in this scenario, expenses has 3 syllables instead of 2 or 1.
Very good, well done. And can you explain why we've used the word more and not most?
Because we're comparing last year and this year.
Very good, well done. We're comparing this year and last year. So that's only two things. Good job. And last, we have that bicycle is the most expensive one here. We're using the word most here because we're talking about one bicycle being compared to all of the other bicycles in the shop. Okay, have a look at this practice. Write the correct form of the adjective in parentheses, then write two or more than two to explain the form you wrote. Mel was the early volunteer to arrive. What should this sentence say, Bilay? Mel was the early volunteer to arrive. What word are we going to put in there, Bilay?
We're gonna put the word earliest.
Good. Can you give the full sentence?
The full sentence is that Mel was the earliest volunteer to arrive.
Good job. So we're using the word earliest. Can you explain why we're using the word earliest? Bao Kang.
It is early than it's more than two.
Good, perfect. She's the earliest volunteer to arrive. So she is the earliest out of all the other volunteers in her group. So we need to use the word earliest because we're comparing more than two. Number two, the number of volunteers this year was greater than the number of volunteers last year. What do we think with this one?
I think the word directly change to greater.
Good, so can you give me the full sentence?
The number of volunteers this year was greater than the number of volunteers last year
Good. Why are we using greater and not greatest pumpkin?
because we compare the two things.
Very good. Well
No
done.
more than two.
Yeah, good job. We're just comparing two things, so we just need to add ER on the end there. Greater. Okay, next, number three. Some volunteer work is interesting than other volunteer work. Cherry, what do you think about this one? What should this sentence say?
This sentence should say some volunteer work is more interesting than other volunteer work.
Good girl. Cherry, why didn't you say interestinger?
Because this sentence is like telling like more than two volunteer work.
So no, it's actually comparing just two different types. So some volunteer work is more interesting than other volunteer work. So it's not comparing more than two here. But my question is, why are we using the word more interesting instead of interestinger? Pro.
Like,
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah, good job. It's a longer word. It has more than 2 syllables. Interesting. It's actually got 4 syllables. Good job. Well done, Pro. Well done. So let's add that in. Some volunteer work is more interesting than other volunteer work. We've only got 2 things that we're comparing here. Okay, last one. These volunteers were the delightful group ever. Pat, what should that say?
It should say, these volunteers were the most delightful group ever.
Good job. Pat, why did you use the word most instead of delightfulest?
Because it's a long word with more than 1 or 2 syllables.
Good job. Well done. These volunteers were the most delightful group ever. We use the word most because delightful is a longer word, so delightfulest doesn't make any sense. And we've also used the word most because we're comparing more than 2 things. All right, moving on to adverbs that compare. So we've learned about adjectives and adverbs before. Adverbs are different than adjectives. Who can explain to me how adverbs are different to adjectives? They are both describing words. Adjectives describe nouns. What do adverbs describe, Katie?
Adverb describe like the actions
Good
or like
job.
a verb.
Well done. Adverbs describe verbs, or sometimes they can describe adjectives. Good job. Okay, please read this whole page for me, Hacker.
Use ER or more to compare 2. Use EST or most to compare 3 or more. Add ER or EST to most adverbs that have 1 syllable. Add more or most before adverb that ends in "ly." Caroline climbed more carefully than Elena. Jenna climbed the most carefully. Elena climbed higher than Jenna. Caroline climbed the highest.
Okay, good job. Lovely reading, Hacker. Okay, guys, so pretty much follows the same rules with adverbs. Use ER or more to compare 2 things. Use EST or most to compare 3 or more. We add ER or EST to adverbs or to most adverbs that just have 1 syllable. And we add more or most before adverbs that end in the letters LY. Okay, let's have a look at this practice before we move on, and we've got a quiz at the end of class today. Number 1, Stephanie felt seriously than Carl about collecting trash from the stream. What do we think this sentence should say? Lily.
I think that it's to say Stephanie felt more seriously than Carl about collecting trash from the stream.
Good girl, well done. We use the word more here because we're comparing just 2 things, Stephanie and Carl. Number 2, Stephanie's group worked quickly than Carl's group. Can you please answer that one for me? Let's go for Trixie. What should that say?
I think that should say worked more quickly.
Good job, well done. More quickly. And again, we've used more because we're only comparing 2 things, Stephanie's group and Carl's group. Number 3, of everyone in the group, Dee collected the trash cautiously. What should we write here? Let's go for Ben.
Of everyone in the group, Dee collected the trash. I think the correct answer is more cautiously.
So not quite more cautiously. Actually, the word we need here is most cautiously. We need most cautiously because we're comparing Dee to everyone in the group. So we're comparing Dee to more than one person. Number 4, as they worked, Stephanie whistled the loud of everyone. Bilay, can you reread that sentence correctly, please?
As they worked, Stephanie whistled the loudest of everyone.
Good job, Bilay. Bilay, can you tell me why you used the word loudest here and not louder?
I use the word loudest because in this sentence, they're comparing with a lot of people, not only comparing with 2 people.
Good job. Well done. We've used loudest because we are comparing more than 2. We've actually also used the word loudest Also, because loud is a word that has only one syllable, so we don't need to say most loud. Loudest is okay here. All right, guys, moving on to our quiz. So we've got a quizzes today. Okay, guys, so really good job. Oh, at the beginning, it said that questions 12 and 13 were a little bit difficult. So I'm going to look at them, but it looks like most of you guys got it correct. So eating fruit is much blank for you than eating fast food. Here we were looking for the answer better. Eating fruit is much better for you than eating fast food. Here we have this one. Now, I agree, this one was a little bit tricky because of the article the. I think they should have written this. I think it would make more sense if it said, this meal is the best I have ever eaten. The meal is the best I have ever eaten is actually not very good English. So whoever made this question should have made this meal. So that was a little bit tricky. I can see that. Here, Afra has more money than me, so she can buy lunch. For this one, this question is more simple than the last one. This one, 3 incorrect. Which car is blank, a Mercedes or an Audi? So here I was looking for the words more reliable. Which car is more reliable, a Mercedes or an Audi? Here I couldn't answer the last question on the test. It was blank question, wasn't it? It was the most difficult question, wasn't it? In the library, you can study better than in your house. My sister is younger than me. And here, a train is slower than a plane. So make sure that you are looking to see how many things you are comparing and then decide. If you can only see 2 things, then you just need to use comparative adjectives or adverbs. Okay, guys, so that brings us to the end of our class. I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you, and I'm going to show you what I want you to do for homework. So, for homework, you have 3 pages, page 146, 147, and 153. So, guys, please take note of the pages in your homework. Either take a picture or write them down now. 146, 147, and 153. Take a quick note of them. Okay, guys, have a really great day. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.